What's up, everybody? Welcome to the podcast. Got a special guest here, Matthew Boyer. Interesting niche. You don't really hear a lot of people talking about painting companies, also martial arts as well. So super pumped to have you here, man.
Thank you. Very excited to be here.
So let's get started and
Okay.
tell everybody a little bit about who you are.
Okay, so my name is Matthew Boyer. I'm 41. I own Boyer Academy and I own Boyer Painting. I also have a little side thing with my kids called Kicks by Kids to teach them entrepreneurship and just like to stay busy.
Okay.
That's the easiest way by.
Kicks by Kids. Is that like selling shoes? Or?
We customize Air Force Ones.
Huh.
So they had been basically extorting me for money. Set up a lemonade stand. Well, it's 2023. I really don't want them out on the street corner. So they'd set up my living room, hit dad up for $5. And my wife get a little frustrated because my daughter would be like, Dad will give us $5. She'd be like, he better not give you $5 for a glass of lemonade. My daughter would be like, Dad will give me $5. So we had been like racking our brain. I'm like, let's not do a lemonade. Let's be original. Let's do something cool. Let's do something different. And my tattoo artist, Jason, got into doing some shoes. And so I'd show them to them. I'm like, look at Jason's latest shoe. And so we started watching YouTube videos. And I was like, I can paint houses. I can teach these two kids to paint a shoe. And so I said, you guys want to do this? Because they were just obsessing about it. They were super into it. We want a business too. Mom and dad are entrepreneurs. Like we want to do it too. I was like, let's do it. I was like, we're going to do it right though. And so we took some savings they had saved, change my dad had saved, and then money they had saved. And we took that and I showed them how to front themselves their startup money. And then we started Kicks by Kids. And so we just customized shoes for friends. People, we started out like $25 to do a pair, mainly just to keep us busy in the winter. They like to do puzzles and Legos. And I don't know if you guys are, have ever checked out Legos, but my son gets really into them, like crazy into them to where it became expensive real fast. Hundreds and hundreds of dollars worth of Legos. And he would sit down. I'd get like a 9 and up Lego. He was 7 at the time, done in 3 hours. Hey, can I go get another one? $85 a Lego. Let's enjoy it. So the shoe thing became pretty cool. We got hooked up with a non-for-profit in Troy called Breeze Gifts that works with foster families. And so then last year we actually customized a bunch of shoes for kids in the Troy school district. Nike sent us 35 pair of brand new Air Force Ones. We customized them. We ended up donating through donations that came in. We cleaned, refurbished, and customized 60 pair of shoes to donate back. And it's mainly something we do in the winter. We're actually got like 6 pairs sitting there right now that we're way behind on getting back to people because we're just busy.
And are they all like, do they start off white? Or
They start off white. We dye them, we splatter them. Like I'll sit down and kind of show them how to tape it. They'll sit down and tape it. They clean them, they prep them. I try to be hands off as much as possible, except at like the final stage, I'll touch up some little nuances. And, they're 10 and 11, so they're not, on Amazon yet. So if we, like a friend of ours wanted Captain Marvel, so we ordered Captain Marvel Legos to go with it.
That's awesome.
It's just fun trying to teach them entrepreneurship, teach them swag. We got them their own little rubber bracelets they hand out at school. I was actually at Hibbett's the other day, and the lady's like, hey, you the guys whose kids make the shoes? I was like, yeah. She goes, oh, my son is killing me for a pair of Spider-Man shoes like your son has. And I was like, that's cool. They're already kind of, when we go to like a Rotary meeting or something in Troy, if they're home from school, I have them put their swag on, and they don't really go as my guest, like as my children, they go as a guest business. And they'll have to stand up and say who they represent, which has really been funny because my son I was real shy as a kid, and he'll shy away, or my daughter will stand up. I'm Jocelyn Boyer and I own Kicks by Kids. And she gets really into it. So they're bound. They were arguing in the car the other day about if they were going to have a Porsche, a Lambo, a Bugatti, what was their first car going to be? And I got to giggling because as a kid, I did that type of stuff. I'd get all my Hot Wheels out. I'd be like, oh, I'm going to have these. I just like line my Hot Wheels up. Be like, have all of these one day. So to hear them doing that stuff now, I'm like, cool. I'm teaching them right.
Right. Yeah, that's super cool. And I never had that, nor would I ever go in front of a room full of people and talk about this business that I own at. How old are they again?
10 and 11.
10 and 11.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Amazing. Props to you for doing that.
I think a lot of it comes from the martial arts with competing. They're part of Team USA with me, and we go all over the world and compete. They compete at a very high level at their age. And I really think the martial arts aspect has helped them with that confidence. that they're not afraid to do that stuff. Plus, they watch me do it. And at their age, I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have done it as a young adult. I was in my teens, late teens, when I started teaching Taekwondo for my instructors. They're like, you have to get up in front of the class. I would almost hyperventilate. Now, and as an adult, I love it. Like when I do amateur kickboxing for charity stuff. And when I step out and the audience screams, I mean, it's such a rush. As a teenager, I would have bet you my life that I never would have done that because I was scared to death to get up in front of a class. Like I didn't even get up sharp my pencil because I mean I come from a day where we had to get up and the hand crank. Everybody looked at you. Man, I didn't want to be that guy. I was always like, oh, it's good enough. It's good enough. I don't want to stand up today. To now doing some of the stuff I do, I'm like, but to see them have that confidence in an early age, it's like, oh yeah, they're going to do great things with it, I hope.
So what made you start Boyer Academy, and how long have you owned that business?
I've had Boyer Academy 14 years. I always wanted to teach martial arts. I got into martial arts at 10 years old, and I loved it. I had wanted to be in martial arts since I was a little kid, and my mom was all for it. My dad was anti-martial arts. My dad currently is 81, so I was his 40th birthday present. He worked at General Motors. He come up with a lot of guys that learned martial arts during the Vietnam era, during the military, that would come back and were real tough hotheads and use it to fight. Hothead tempers ran in the family, so my dad was like, absolutely not. I'm not going to train him, because he came up with some dudes that were pretty bad dudes that would purposely, one of his friends would buy cheap suits so he could tear them off on the weekends before he fought guys at the bar. Like legit, they would go thrift shopping. He would get this cheap suit because he liked to tear it up before pummeling somebody. And my dad had seen a lot of that, and he was like, no way am I getting him trained. And by the age of 10, I had just flat out drove my parents nuts. I wouldn't play any sport. I had no interest. Cars or martial arts, the only two things I wanted to do. I was fascinated with cars. I had always loved that. So started in martial arts, wrote myself a letter as a kid that I wanted to teach when I got older. And my dad was for not being an entrepreneur, well, technically my parents were entrepreneurs, but for not being a lifetime entrepreneur, he was very focused on pushing me to be one. He worked at General Motors his whole life. That's what my grandfather made him do. My dad had opportunities so back in the day, it was the St. Louis Browns. He actually went to a camp for them and could have potentially went on to a baseball career. My grandpa made him get a job at GM. So my dad always pushed me to be self-employed. Find something, not even really self-employed. Find something you love and do that, because he made real good money at GM, but he hated every minute of his job. Hated it. So with the martial arts path, that was always kind of my goal after a certain point, was to learn everything I could. My instructor, one instructor's father, who also was one of my instructors, took me under his wing and kind of taught me the nuts and bolts of the business. And that was just what I wanted to do. So when I turned 28, I opened my school, which it's kind of why I said it's awesome for you at 23 to be doing what you're doing, because you get a lot of pushback in your 20s. At 28, I looked 20. And we actually used to lie to everyone, telling my dad owned the school, and I just ran it because he had like a bad knee or some crap. Because people would come in and, you're going to teach my kid karate? Yeah? You own this place? No, my dad does. Oh, okay. Like, that was cool. My dad was 50, 58. That was totally cool. He owned it. 68, 58. Not cool for me too. Weirdest thing. So opened the school. I just love teaching. And that's really, I loved being an entrepreneur. I loved setting my own schedule. I had great self-discipline. I had no knowledge. I didn't know crap. And I was broke. And mind you, I opened the school in the third quarter of 2009, in the biggest recession we had ever had, which, looking back on it, I wish someone would have slapped me. But at the same time, it taught me lessons that will get me through anything, because I was able to build a school in an extremely bad economy.
You already saw the worst.
Yeah, I learned so many lessons through hard knocks and through making mistakes and through bad advice. And a lot of my biggest mistakes in the beginning were not trusting my gut. I think some of us have a knack for entrepreneurship. Some of us just have that sixth sense for understanding what we have to do. There were things I knew I needed to do, but other people would tell me no. And it took years to develop the confidence to be like, no, we're doing it this way.
So did you, when you first started the school, was it in your home, a garage,
I
or did you rent?
I went out rented. I went full out. I went out and rented a space in Wentzville next to Sherwin-Williams at the opposite end of the plaza and started. No students, no nothing. I had one black belt. A friend of mine had moved. A friend of a friend had moved in from out of state, and he directed her to me, and she came out with me, but then kind of life got in the way for her. And I just started hustling.
And how did you fill up that room and start getting clients at that time?
So Facebook ads had kind of, as far as I'm aware, I may be wrong on this, I didn't know much about Facebook ads. I tried one time and somebody put a negative comment on it and you couldn't delete it. And what it was a competitor of mine went in and was like, don't go to him, go here. And that was one of their marketing tactics. I couldn't delete. If I remember right, I wasn't able to delete it, so I canceled all ads because they were cheap, but they were very green. There wasn't a whole lot you could do with it. But a buddy was playing with them out of state, sent me some ideas. I tried it. So I just went grassroots. I just did the only thing I knew how to do, and that was I joined the chamber. Any event I could go to, I would come teach martial arts. Any preschool that would take me, any elementary school that would let me come in and share a karate class. And I'd go in and just teach the kids how to kick and punch and have fun with it. And I did it everywhere I could. At one point in time, I actually traded somebody lessons for a 93 Mercury Topaz. It was like a $400 car. I think that's why I traded them $400 worth of lessons, because I was driving so many miles. I was teaching over 1,000 kids a week at different preschools, elementary schools, summer camps, you name it. Anything I could find. Hey, you want me to come out and do a martial arts class? Because they're always looking to fill space. Yeah, we'd love to have you. And it just worked.
So you started with these, I know you guys are big in the networking groups, right? The Master Networks, BNI. I don't know if you're a part of that one, Chamber of Commerce.
Done the BNIs, yes.
So what do you suggest for maybe a new entrepreneur in any business of joining? Should they join one of those groups? Should they join many? Should they show up themselves? Should they hire somebody to go there for them?
So that was the big struggle I had. I knew networking was great. I knew the networking groups were going to be super beneficial, but I was on a job site and I would leave a job site, go sit at it was a BNI at the time. And the entire time I'm like, man, I really need to be rolling that room upstairs if I'm going to hit this deadline. I knew that wasn't for me. I had a growing business. We were booming. I was very busy. I didn't need to stand around and have lunch to fill an hour of my day. And that part annoyed me. So because I had done it with the martial arts school, I really didn't feel I got a return on it through the martial arts, but I may have been utilizing it improperly. For the painting company, I knew I needed to do it to get the name out there and to create those relationships, but I knew I couldn't commit the time to it. I didn't want to hire anybody because I'd watched a lot of businesses do that. And I felt like sometimes people would show up and waste a lot of time because, hey, he can afford it, on the boss's dime. So I went to my wife, who's super personal, great with that type of stuff. She had always done wonders with me up at the school. The parents always liked her. And I just begged her. I'm like, you've got to leave your job. You got to go. I can't. She was super scared to do it. She was, when we got together, she was a single mom, always relied off of her own work and was very gun shy to do it. And her boss at the time was like, you guys can't afford to do that. So then I was on a real mission because I knew I made more in a month.
You got to prove them wrong. Yeah.
Before I was livid. I'm not even going to repeat all the things I said because I was hot. So wife called me one day from work and she's like, you know what? I just billed out more. Because she would do on her lunch break, she would do billing and stuff for me if I was backed up on the job sites, or we would do it at night. She goes, I just billed out more work, more stuff that you painted in the last 2 weeks than I'm going to make this year. And she made good money, made a little under $100,000. And she's like, we can do this. I was like, because I was begging her. Like I literally 3-year-old temper tantrum begging her because I go, I don't want anyone else to do it. You're perfect for it. I want it to be you. One of my goals with the painting business was to provide, to have a business, be an entrepreneur, to provide jobs, stimulate the economy, and for my wife to be able to get the kids on and off the bus, to do the things she wanted because she was self-employed also with me. that we would do it together. I didn't want to run a business while my spouse punched a clock. So then, it just hadn't worked. And that was one of my goals. And I literally had a full out temper tantrum. So she came on board, and it has been amazing for us. I think in the beginning, I don't want to say it was more. What I've found with it, and this is something I try to explain to new businesses that are like, well, I went a couple times and didn't really get anything. Nobody's really referring me. The secret to the sauce is you have to refer everyone in the group. Myself, I'm bad about that. If I'm on social media, I'm reading something from somebody like you. I'm reading something from an Andy Frischella. I'm not looking at, who needs a guy to put a doorbell in? I'm just not that guy. I don't read it. If I do read it, it's like 3 days later, I'm like, I should have referred my buddy. Whereas my wife, man, she's on it.
She brings new people into the groups as well.
She
Always
does.
looking for new people and companies, which is amazing.
Well, and that's part of doing it. You have to do it. Some people just want to show up. But the real secret to the sauce I found, so I always ask customers, how'd you hear about us? Because with the painting business, it's so much word of mouth. It's such a trust industry. Ads on Facebook, stuff like that are great, but your grade A client is going to be someone that's like, hey, you painted my grandma's house. It looked awesome. She loved you, said you guys had lunch with her. I want to use you. Those are my grade A. So what I found, I always ask them, how'd you hear about us? And they'd be like, you popped up on We Love the Twin Oaks subdivision private group. 27 people referred you. Most of them are not clients. People assume they're all clients. People assume I painted I had 2 trucks on the road at one point. People would call me all the time. Hey, saw one of your trucks at South St. Louis. No, they didn't. They saw a red truck. It wasn't ours. People go into all these groups that I can't access because I don't live in the subdivision, because those are very powerful little groups. Wentzville groups, O'Fallon groups, St. Charles groups, Ladue groups. I may not live in the area, so if I try to join, I may not get in. And people will post, call Boyer. And people all the time are like, 27 people, 24 people, 23 people all referred you. Because sometimes people have an attitude about it. Be like, everybody just kept commenting you. So I figured, why not? I always find that odd. I'm always like, well, I'm sorry.
Did you know that I own that Troy group?
Yes.
It's got like 18,000 members. I'm pretty sure you like to post where I was like trying to rent out. It was really a test, and I was trying to rent out spots for people to be able to advertise in those groups, because that's how I grew my business, is blowing up on there. But over time, admins are like, I don't want these businesses posting here. They delete everything.
Crazy.
Right?
Yep.
So I wanted to be able to provide that opportunity, and I just got destroyed in the comments.
Yes. I almost messaged you one time about that. That was one you got hammered on, because I knew a couple guys hammering you, and because they had tried it. They tried it 2 years ago. That's why I was like, because I wondered when they had started a group and then were offering ads in the group, or you could sponsor a group from us. I actually think I did it at one point. And a few people, I had seen a few of them hammering on you, and I was like, man, that's a pretty cool idea. Because I had saw when you were first looking to buy the groups, and I was like, let's keep an eye on Kyle's page.
Right,
I'm interested. Where's he going with this? I'm interested. That's interesting. I was like, because my brain gets to going. I'm like, I never thought of that. And I followed that one. Then there was one, you and Lindsay Whitaker went to get food, and you had your car up there, and the amount of negative comments about you having the Lambo, I was like,
the plates were expired, and people were just destroying me in the comments.
And I was like, but I was really impressed with how you handle it, because I've had my wife chase me through the house as I hurdle couches trying to text someone and tell them to F off on something, because I get real heated, and I'm learning to control it. I actually watch a lot of lawyers, because I love the way they're able to control emotions and be so analytical and on different things. Like I'll be watching and she'll start talking to me. Just even TV shows where it's fictional characters with their lawyers. She'll be talking. I'm like, and I'll watch like what they do and how they rebut stuff. I'm always super impressed with it, because I'm bad about it. It's one of the things I'm learning. As entrepreneurs, we're very passionate, so it's hard sometimes not to get away. And I was really impressed with some of your stuff, because I was like, if he's posting all this himself, that gentleman has got some self-control, because I'd be like posting videos, my middle finger up in the Lambo going, I ain't worried about the plates right now.
Yeah, some of the most successful people I know, they're like, Kyle, I don't know how you do it. Some of the videos that have
Yeah, you
gotten
could
massive traction, you look at the comments and 80% of them are negative, and some of those will ruin my day, right? Like it'll take me down where it's like at the end of the day, why should I care?
Yep.
If you go and look at those haters' profiles,
Yep.
what are they doing with their
Nothing.
lives? They got 13 followers. Their
Yep.
profile picture is a picture of a cat.
Yeah.
And
It's always something.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Well, and that's the thing. Like I was laughing. I was sitting at the desk one night with some of my instructors, and we were sitting there because I go to the school about 2:00, and they'll be up there, and I like to bounce things off them because my teen competition team are all extremely bright young men and women, and so I love to. When I'm losing faith in humanity, I love to bounce stuff off them and get their take. And when they come back with actual good answers, I'm like, okay, we don't need an apocalypse. Thanos wasn't correct, and this shows about half the people need to go. Like we're good. There's some positivity coming. I love bouncing ideas off them, and I had showed them different things, and there we had joked about the fact that I was like, look at all these people hating on him. I said, you know how bad he feels about that when he walks out and gets in his Lamborghini to go to work tomorrow? He doesn't. Probably smiles a little bit thinking, yeah, I bet it sucks in your Geo Metro, dipshit. After you spent all afternoon razzing me in the comments, yeah, I'm really feeling bad. Lindsay and I have talked about that before too. Like
Right.
it's yeah, I feel terrible, because people call her a slumlord or different nasty things. And
Right.
she's like, yeah, I feel so bad. Oh, look at that. I got a little dust on my Ferrari,
Yeah, she's got 800 units and they got one house.
Well, they don't even have that normally.
Yeah.
I've never, and I have to remind myself that too. I've never had anyone that was successful ever criticize anything I do. And that's actually why I watch stuff you do. I've got a friend of mine, Josh Smith. He posts a lot of similar lessons like an Andy Frischella or a Sean Whalen would post. And I used to sit there and I'm like, man, I don't got the guts to post that stuff. People are going to rip me apart. I'm passionate. I'm going to get mad. But you get social media and stuff amplifies the negative. And what I noticed is the more traction I got posting stuff like that, I would watch it and I would watch it and I would see you, I would see Josh, I would see other Zach Babcock, I would see different people that I respect commenting, liking different things. And I was like, and then I started getting people that maybe don't post that much on Facebook, but that are successful, all of a sudden popping up going, hey man, that was great today. Or DMing me. A friend of mine messaged me. She goes, I actually read one of your posts at our meeting this week to motivate the crew. Like it started attracting my like-minded people. And then the negativity stopped bothering me.
People become censored on social media and they don't want to say honestly what's on their mind because they're worried about what people are going to say in return. And the more negativity I've got, the bigger I've got, the more successful I've became, you know, and you have to be willing to take it. Otherwise it's just going to drag you down.
Oh, I've had a few, I'm not real good with the reels and the TikToks and all that. I'm still learning, but I've been posting a ton of content on the painting page. I stopped for a while because we were so booked out and so backed up that it was actually hurting me. Because every time I post, I get a message for a bid. Every single one. If I post 3 times a day, I'll get 3 messages. If we post something unique, I'll get 10 messages. Well, we were booked out almost 4 months. And at one point, I couldn't even go bid for 3 weeks. We were so backed up. But so as a lot of other companies, there just wasn't the people. I couldn't train them fast enough to do it. I don't want to sit here and say, well, I could grow bigger if I could hire. I just couldn't really train them. I could find the people, but I couldn't get them ready to do it right. And so I actually stopped posting for a long time because it really was. I actually got a couple bad reviews from people who were like, I can't even get in to get a bid. He's so busy. And which is probably a great review, honestly. But when I started posting, I started posting reels, videos and stuff. And I started noticing like social media will pick a random one and all of a sudden I'll get comments. And the negative comments are almost good because then someone else comes in. Like I went in and rebutted.
Argue.
They argue. I went in and rebutted somebody because guys like, no drop cloths down, no this, no that. And I went in, I'm like, it's actually a remodel in the city. I was trying, because I thought about you because I remembered your post about your plates. And I was like, okay, keep it cool. Don't be a jerk. Sometimes I get done with class at night. It's been a 16-hour day. I might be a tad grumpy. And I went in, just responded, it's a remodel, thank you, and I was like, that's actually a 2-foot step ladder. You are allowed to stand on the top of it. Don't, you can call OSHA, but they don't care. And someone under it was like, you got schooled, dumbass, go back to, because the guy was a chiropractor, and when they started going back and forth, I ended up deleting it because it was just blowing up my feed. And then I look back on it, I'm like, that probably was getting an absolute crap ton of views because of that. I shouldn't have done it. I should have left it, because it wasn't a bad post. It was just a video of a bunch of employees in a hallway in an empty unit that's getting new carpet, so we didn't cover anything. And I knew when I posted, someone would say something. Because I'll even sometimes, if I'm going to take photos, I'll be like, hey, throw drop cloths down. And they're like, the flooring guys are in the next room. They're tearing us out tonight. I just want, for the photo, throw it down. Move that over here, stand here, put the ladder, make sure. I don't really stage them, but I'll make sure the right things are in place just to save me the headache. But the negative ones are almost better. Oh, and I bet I've watched some of the stuff you've put up, and with your age, and I've every once in a while I'll hop on the comments and I'm like, let's just see what the peanut gallery has to say today. Because I remember when you came to one of the networking groups, and I think you had one truck then. Might have had more than one.
Yeah, I actually walked into the Pizza Ranch place.
Okay.
And then my guys called me, hey, the truck just blew up. And then I walked in the room, I walked right back out, and I had to go take care of something. But yeah, I had one truck.
Yeah, because then we used you guys. When we bought our house, you guys hauled some stuff off, and I was like, I remember sitting down in my head, like anytime I see a business, I'll always be like, dude, you got labor, you got the trucks, you got the...
Yeah, how much are they making?
That's interesting. Not as a hating standpoint, but just as an interest, because I see some businesses that I'm like, how are you staying open? Like, just off my base knowledge of entrepreneurship, it's like, somebody's got a rich spouse or is related to the landlord. Like, sometimes when you see some brick and mortar businesses, it's like, what's going on? And I'll actually walk in sometimes and ask. If it's someone that looks approachable, I'll go in and start a conversation. She's like, how do you do it? Oh, I actually have this huge online business. Ah, that's cool. Okay. I was like, I was really curious. I didn't think this place probably... They're like, oh no, this is just for necessity. Or so I had broke yours down, and then, like I said, I seen more, and then I think a friend of ours came to work for you for a minute. I'm not positive.
Yep.
I feel like that conversation was had. And I remember seeing some pictures of you with your, is it Range Rover or Land Rover?
Yep, Range Rover.
Range Rover. I get them mixed up on which is which. And I was like, well, that's cool. He bought that. And I seen the trucks, and I was like, that's neat. And then when you bought the Lambo, I was like, that's interesting.
What's he doing?
Well, I was just like, that's interesting, because I've learned that most entrepreneurs don't do stuff to be stupid. There's a reason for it. And I've always had cars. I've always had, I've always been a car guy. I always had new, nice cars. Ordered a brand new 350Z in '08. Always had eyes on a Porsche. Wish I'd have just bought one when I was younger. But I find it interesting. And I went to a 10X one time. Grant Cardone was speaking, and one of the things I found was how many of those guys, their watches. I was obsessed with their watches. Why they bought their, not even just what watch, just why they bought their watch. So I love that thing you put up the other day about the Patek Philippe watch. I was like, wow, that's really cool. It's
a conversation starter.
It totally is.
Same with the car. You go to the gas station. I had three people this morning on the way here.
Yeah.
Hey, what do you do for a living? Who are you?
Yep.
I love this car. They're all taking pictures. Hey, can my son sit in front of it? I'm like, sit in the car, right?
Sit in it. Go for it.
Yeah. And then I build that relationship. They know who I am. Same thing with a watch.
It wasn't until you had said something about that, and Lindsay had posted some stuff on it about putting her in the right room with her GTR. And I was like, wow, I never thought of it that way. I always had the mindset of, so my dad, when I was a kid, had a 76 Corvette. In the 90s, I had that. I still have it. It's in my garage. I got so much hate and so much shit. I would have people randomly pull up, hey, fuck you. Try to, like, just screaming at me because they had always dreamed of one of those 50-year-old dudes, always dreamed of one, and I was 19 driving it. They didn't know I had maintained the car my entire life for my dad. I did everything. I never wrecked it. I was super responsible. I always worked. So my dad let me drive it. When I got my aunts and uncles actually had a fit about it, and my dad handed me the title. He goes, well, he's not driving my Corvette anymore. He's driving his. So it'll pass down one day. So I always got so much shade about it. I got hated on in school. Like, if I'd see people wave at me, they'd be like, oh, you're just showing off. I'm like, I just was waving from a car.
We shot content before you got here, me in front of the camera. And I explained how I had the Lambo, for example, right? And how many views that I've got since I actually bought the car. if I were to not say one word and it was just a video of the car, it's automatically going to get way more views than anything else.
Yep.
I mean, I think within the first week of me having it, I already had probably 1 million views.
I bet you could, if you could figure it all out, the car pays for itself.
Yeah, 100%.
100%. No, and that was my thing. I've always wanted something. I've always been a Porsche fanatic. I have nothing against Ferraris or Lambos. I love them. Really love McLarens. But I've always wanted a Porsche. And a couple of years back, I realized I had reached an elevation. I would always get online and search for them. Look at them. Oh, what are they going for? What's this? Oh, what's that? Because I wanted to learn about them. I like to learn about stuff. And at one moment, I was sitting on the couch one night, and I looked at my wife. I said, I just realized something. She goes, what? I said, I'm not daydreaming anymore. I can buy this. And she's like, huh, you can. And I got kind of emotional over it. I didn't cry, but I mean, I got a little teary-eyed. I was like, man, wow, that's crazy, because it's something I've always done. My kids get on. They'll be like, what are you looking at? Ooh, I like the silver one. Like, we get on. My daughter's very dead set. We're having one this year. She tells people.
I love it.
I was like, well, let's make sure we bring it up a little bit smoother than just my dad's going to buy a Porsche this year. I was like, you sound like a brat. But then once I started seeing the financial benefit of putting you in those rooms that different people, I started following different people. And what kind of hit home with it is we went to, it was the European Auto Show or whatever at the dealerships down there in St. Louis. I think it was in the parking lot of the Ferrari dealership, maybe. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know what you're talking
cluster
about.
Porsche and everything is.
Hampton, maybe.
Yeah, that area, yeah. And my daughter had taken photos next to a couple of the cars, and I got this weird like. And I was like, and I'm very, with the martial arts school, a lot of my students are female, so I'm very weird. When people like my page, I don't recognize the name as a parent, cousin, something that's popped up before. So I went in and clicked on it. It was the owner of the Ferrari, and he commented. He's like, oh, glad she liked it, and I was like, that is the coolest thing ever. Then my brain immediately goes, what's this dude do? So I started clicking through, checking the guy out. I honestly, I don't remember what he did. I just remember that was my first thought. I was like, well, what's he do? And it was so cool because I tagged the event. He seen his car with her there and he commented. Jocelyn thought that was the neatest thing ever. I was like, I didn't expect that from, several $100,000 Ferrari.
Right.
The guy to be like, oh, that's really cool. The kids buy it.
You automatically think he's going to be a douchebag.
Not
Most
even a
people
douchebag, just not care.
Yeah.
Didn't think he'd care. Didn't think he'd take the time to do that. And I was like, wow, that's really neat. And then, different things Lindsay's put up, different things different people I've known have put up. I was like, wow, there's actually a friend of mine and I came back from Tennessee and we had a conversation on it. I was down there, my buddy Josh was speaking, and I realized he had a Breitling watch. And that didn't ruin the talk for me, but for the next 30 minutes, I was like, man, I love Breitling watches. Like, that's all I could think about. So that motivated me to buy my first Breitling. But on the way back, I was really hung up on it. My buddy Brad's like, that stuff doesn't do it for me. I'm like, it always has for me. And my father, everybody used to get on my dad. You teach your son to spend money. My dad would take me down suit shopping. He'd be like, pick me out an Armani suit. And the people would always give him crap about it. And he goes, here's the deal. I'm going to raise him with expensive taste. He's going to have to work his ass off if he wants to have it. And I'll be honest, that motivates me a lot because I like nice things. I take pride in them. I've had stuff for 10 years that I've bought that my wife and I got together. I was like, oh, that's really expensive. Why are you buying that pair of jeans? Still got them. I take care of my stuff, so it's an investment for me. But the car thing, I've really changed my outlook on that because of the attention it gets and the conversation starters. And for you, it's probably even more amazing than it would be someone older because they're thinking, what's your dad do? They're thinking, who gave you the money? They're not expecting that out of you. People still to this day, oh, so your dad owned a painting company? No. Oh, your dad was real big into martial arts? No. Well, how'd you end up with those? Well, I started them. I'm that one in my family. I'm the one that's going to start those that my great grandkids will talk about. But it's amazing how even in my 40s, people will assume that my parent or someone did it for me. So I can't even imagine like the thoughts that run through people's heads. And then you're like, oh, I actually started it, and I do all that. And you're well spoken. So then they're going to be like, whoa.
I got a buzz cut and I look like a young kid driving around.
Yeah.
I was going to change my license plate to Thanks Dad is literally what I was going to change it to and drive around.
That's awesome. That is.
But I was
amazing.
I was at the shoe store yesterday, DSW shoes, buying some real cheap shoes.
Yeah.
And I'm walking outside and I see this doctor with a doctor outfit
Yeah.
on, and he's walking along the side of me. And I was like thinking in my head, oh, is he getting ready to like walk over to my car, because you could see the Huracan sitting right there. And we're like kind of right neck and neck. And then I walk up to the car. Of course, that's where he's walking. He's like, he was just so happy. It looked like
Yeah.
I made his day,
Yeah.
and he's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
man, I just happened to look out the window and I thought it was a Lamborghini. So I came out here. I'm a car enthusiast,
Yeah.
He's like, I've got this Audi, it's such a great car. I just really want to get these. I just can't afford it. Right. So, he's a doctor. He was an
Yeah.
eye doctor.
Yeah.
And then here I am with like a $6 t-shirt on and like people are pulling up and they probably think the doctor
Oh yeah, they
owns
probably
it.
think you're
Right.
star fanboying over this doctor's Lambo.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess more of the story of why I bring this up is like he wanted that car, but for some reason maybe he didn't have it, right?
Yeah.
So just being able to explain of like, hey, 3 years ago I was making $28,000 a year and
Yeah.
I had a $4,000 car, right?
Yeah.
Like all it takes is 6 months of hard work,
Yep.
doing the right steps, and you could get, it's more attainable than a lot of people think.
Well, and so many people waste money. So two things I want to touch on what you said. The hard work part. I meet people all the time. How'd you do it? Hard work. I don't know. They'll be like, I'll flat out tell you when I approached my wife, I was sitting at work, the painting company I worked for, and I was pissed off because our apprentice looked like trash. He looked like we picked him up as a hobo, and I was mad. And I was like, why are you dressing like that? As construction workers, we have such a bad image anyways. Like, at least try to wear clean whites, wear a belt, comb your beard. Like, and the kids grow up, he's a great guy now. And he was a great guy then. He just was going through some stuff, looked rough. And my boss was like, well, what would you do? I said, I'd make uniforms. I listed off. He's like, that's stupid. You're way too stupid to ever have a painting company. What he didn't know is I had $50,000 in the bank I was saving as a big down payment on a house. I had been working a lot, but I had blocked him on social media. So, because I knew if they seen all the hustling I was doing, they would screw with me. And I text my wife. I was like, let's open a painting company. Now, what people don't see is fast forward over a year, Rich, my main foreman, who I was telling you out there, like I do anything, Rich gets the van, whatever he needs. We work 7 days a week, 16 plus hours every day, knocking down every bit of work we could, building the reputation of the business. I would see my kids on Sunday night when they went to bed, and I'd see them Friday night if I got home in time. If not, I might get off early on a Saturday. And by early, I mean 6 p.m. and see them. And when I tell people that's how I did it, because I tell them I went from a Chevy Astro van, expired tags. I didn't even have a title on it because I bought it from it was a mechanic lien car somewhere, and I had a bunch of issues with the title, so I just kept swapping plates I had randomly on it to go paint because it was all-wheel drive and I could go anywhere in the winter. I went from that. It took me less than 30 months to go to $1.5 million a year painting in a business that's considered boring, and most contractors, when they go out on their own, are broke or make bad decisions, super in debt. I went from that to busted van to a fleet of vans in a crazy amount of time. In 30 months, making that transition in money blows people away. But when you tell them the secret is I just worked my ass off, and so did my people, and I paid them good. And in that period of time, we went from me paying people cash. On Fridays, I'd meet everybody at a gas station after they got done with whatever job, if they were with me or whatnot, hand them out $100 bills in the parking lot, to W-2'd, full insurance, offering full health benefits, being a very well-respected with the website, the social media, the uniforms, the presence, the marketing, in literally 30 months. But I did it because I worked at it. People forget that part of it. They're always like, how'd you do it? And they think that you just found an algorithm and it just worked.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, you just happened to do it at the perfect time. So I always like tell everyone at the martial arts school, I started in a terrible economy, and I had to just bust my tail to do it. But I realized I like teaching, and I didn't want to make that into a larger business. I didn't want to scale that yet. I'll probably be there at some point. I know what I need to do. I've branded it well. It's a very drop and go for me at this point if I want to scale it. I don't want to do that yet. But with the painting company, I was like, this is something I'm not as emotional about. This would be perfect. And so then it became train, teach, build, repeat. Teach this crew, build it, repeat. Teach this crew, build, and repeat. But they forget that. They forget that part. That As soon as I start talking to them and you mention the hard work, they don't want the Porsche anymore. They don't want this. They want to clock out, go home, have a beer, catch up on The Bachelor, whatever stupid TV show's on, or cruise TikTok all night. They don't want the hard work part. I have guys tell me all the time, man, I've really been trying to get off the ground. What did you do? And I tell them this, oh, I can't do that.
People don't want to give it time either.
No,
they want to get rich. You know, they want to get rich overnight, which, you know, I've been the same guy where it's I'm looking for the next best business where I can make crazy money. But you look at anyone who's really created something great, they've done the same thing for a very long time.
Copy and paste.
Think of all the obstacles that you've come across. You're still coming across them. We already talked about a few, right? Where 99% of the people who are going to start a junk removal company or a painting company would have gave up by now.
Oh, I have been, in the past 3 weeks, I had 3 huge obstacles where we come across arguing with the superintendent or something. Mainly it was an ego thing. We want Matt to come out here and paint this. Well, Matt's busy. Matt runs multiple businesses. Matt, what can I help you with? I have a foreman there. So they lock us out on like the last day. House is 90% done, 98%. We're not paying you. You didn't finish. Be there Monday to finish it. No, I want you to finish it. I'm not finishing your house. We're not making this an ego contest. My crew will be there. What do you need done? More than happy to accommodate. I'll take real good care of you. Come across that 3 times in the past. It was overwhelming for a minute. It was $35,000 worth of work that I had to go to bat, negotiate, come up with solutions for, and I got paid. Got almost all the money. On the one job, we didn't finish the job. It was a 2-part job, so we didn't do the second part, so we didn't get paid on that, obviously. But I know a lot of people would have just walked in the shop the next day and been like, see you guys around. Me, I moved money over. I did this. I actually threw on painting clothes and went and did a job that week that wasn't scheduled to get that extra 10 grand to throw in the bank to cover what I was fighting for. Like they won't do that part. Like you said, our society is so obsessed with comfort. Everything's got to feel good. Everything's got to be, I put a post this morning about easy. Everything's got to be easy. Nothing's easy that's satisfying. Nobody that owns a great business did anything easy. I personally like the challenges. I knew when I was painting for another company that at one point I was going to have to leave because I was going to learn everything about painting and I wasn't going to be challenged. And I used to worry about it. I'm like, man, what happens when I'm not challenged anymore? Didn't think I was going to open my own place, but don't tell me I can't do something. That didn't work out well.
So talking about challenges, I almost forgot about bringing this up.
Yeah.
You post a lot of content about ice baths or polar plunge or whatever. So you're challenging yourself every single day.
Yeah.
How is that going, and why do you even do that?
Started doing it because of soreness. That was what everybody talked about, inflammation, soreness, this, that. A lot of the videos are burns brown fat, this and that. That's all bullshit. It does help the soreness. I did during fight camps because I noticed, so with the martial arts, I'll take a kickboxing match for charity. I've raised money for a couple different charities recently, St. Michael's Army. And I did it for soreness. I'm 41 years old. I'm just sore. What I noticed was I felt better. And a lot of them say do it in the morning. I don't like to do it in the morning because I haven't bought like a fancy ice bath. I have a trough and I pour ice in it. The guys at the gas station are like, bro.
Do you keep water in there overnight?
Yeah, I'll dump it like every 3 days if it gets nasty. If I keep it covered, it'll stay better longer. I tried shocking it with like a pool chlorine or whatever, and I noticed it can give me a rash, so I just dump it and refill it. It hasn't hardly affected the water. I was like, oh my gosh, it's got to be killer. And it's not.
And are you using like ice bags or
I go get bags of ice and dump them in it. Yeah, I get bags of ice and just dump 3 to 4 bags, depending on how crazy I'm really wanting to go. But what I noticed was the dopamine, I just felt better. Well, as I was doing it, I kept telling myself, I just feel better. I've been doing it for a while. And then it kind of became a challenge. So many people I knew were like, that's scary. I'm not going to do it. And so now I'm like, oh, come on. I'm going to keep doing it till I get you to do it. Well, then all of a sudden the science started coming out. Andy Frisella came out about it. A bunch of people came out saying that the dopamine effects and how it just was insane. And now they're coming out with studies showing with entrepreneurship and the stress we take on, it really fries your system and how that can actually restart a lot of it. Because that's what I kept telling her. I'm like, I'm just in a better mood. I like to do it about 1 or 2 o'clock. After I get done with a lot of my meetings and stuff, I kind of have a midday lull before I go to the martial arts school. before I have to contact. There's right after lunch, I have about an hour and a half window where I really don't get a lot of contact from my employees, customers. People are getting back to work from lunch, things like that. I have this nice little smooth spot. And I would just be in such a better mood. And it was part ego because a lot of people I know are like, you're crazy. I'm like, I'm going to do it again. Because again, challenging. But a lot of it was I just felt better.
So do you know what the temperature is?
No. I had a little zapper thing for it and it would tell me, but I didn't really believe it.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it'd read like 28. I'm like, well, water freezes. It would be ice if it was 28. And I think it was bouncing off the back of the container. I try to get it around 40.
Right. Or it's 50 and you're like, this is 25 degrees.
Yeah. Because the air temp affects it too. If the sun's out, it affects just how it feels to the skin. We've found that if we fill it up fresh, throw 2 bags in it, it's pretty cold. What a lot of the scientists have come out and said is you don't really have to get it stupid cold. These guys going out and having it to where it's like got, glaciers bobbing in it is unnecessary. Because I was getting it, I would go out and chop the ice off it in the winter and get in it. You could only do 30 seconds. Your body would go numb. What a lot of them, Andrew Huberman's put a lot of content out on, keep it at 45 degrees and sit in it for 6-7 minutes. You get the same benefits. So I kind of went that path, my wife and I, because she's gotten to doing it now. The kids do it to where we just don't get it as cold. Saves on ice too. And I plan to, since I've stuck with it so long, I plan to actually buy a nice ice bath. And if I do that to where it's chilled and ready to go, I will do them in the morning.
Do you know which one you'd get?
There's a couple of them, but I'll tell you what, they keep coming out with new ones every day.
I know. So they're so expensive too.
They're $5,000 easy.
Yeah, the big white one. I can't think of what that's called. I think it's $10,000.
There's some of them that get that. There's a few. I think Russell Brand and like Mark Wahlberg have some now that's like these wooden ones that are crazy cool. You can step up on them and
they're like barrels.
Well, no, it's not even the barrel one. They're this big wooden thing with like steps up it. They're probably 15, 20 grand. The plunge, I think, is the OG like bathtub looking one.
That's the one I'm thinking of.
I think that's 5.
Yeah.
I think those are about $5,000. Now there may be some fine print there where you got to order the cooler for it or something, but I believe those were $5,000 ready to drop. That's probably what I'll end up doing. Because I would do them in the morning, but I'm not going to. I get up and leave the house about 5 to get the shop. I like to be the guy that's there when the crews pull up the shop. I like to, here lately I've been getting there. I have the vans pulled out for them. I have my list ready to go. We got the paint sorted. We're ready to rock. So getting up, filling the tank, putting ice in it was just going to be not efficient for me. So once I buy a real one, I guarantee I'll hop in that sucker fresh out of bed in the morning because all you do is lift the lid and you're in.
So my cousin has one, just like what you're talking about, the horse. What do they call it? What'd you call it?
The trough.
Okay.
Yep.
And he would dump it out every single time. So I go over to swim at his house, and he'd be like, "Hey, we got to dump this out," and we'd have to dump, the water in different parts of the yard. I'm like, man, this is a pain in the butt. But I did it, and it was just like I felt amazing. Plus, it's like you're doing what you don't want to do. You're uncomfortable.
You're teaching yourself to do something uncomfortable.
Yeah,
and that's what a lot of people have said, that doing it first thing in the morning, the rest of the day is easier. But like I said, it took about 2 weeks for me, and I noticed just a huge mood change because we deal with being an entrepreneur. People think it's all easy. You just move some money around, tell everybody else what to do. And you get ate up a lot of stress. I care about my employees. I take pride in employing them. I want to make sure they have good jobs. I want to make sure we do good work. So you carry a lot of that stress. And then, like I said, with having 2 businesses and 2 polar opposite businesses, it keeps you very busy.
So what does your painting business look like right now in terms of like the amount of trucks and amount of employees you have right now?
Right now we got 14 employees, sitting at 6 crews running actively every day, six vans going out, normally 2 people on a crew. I got 1 guy that just does cabinets full time. And that was one of my goals, was to do that. And that's pretty much every once in a while we have a little week lull scheduling. And Chris will hop off cabinets and help with the repaint, but he pretty well just runs and does cabinets constantly. I've got 2 crews that run new construction, 20, to 52 weeks a year, 20, that's it. That's their full-time gig. And then the other 3 are normally rotating around repaints or backing up the crews on the construction jobs. Like I've got 4 vans at one apartment building today. It's 18 apartments that we're just buttoning all up so they can get them cleaned over the weekend. So we didn't need all 4 vans, but we had equipment out of all 4 vans. So I had them take them over because we'll be done today. we can organize everything up. I'm driving a van today. I'm going to run it back over there to put everything back in it. So we keep them going 40 hours a week, payrolls ranging 12, 15,000 every week. Provide benefits. They're all W-2 direct deposits. We offer a simple IRA, doing a lot that a lot of companies don't do. I meet a lot of painters that are just 1099'd.
So let's get into the employee side of things now that you're talking about that, right? And there's a lot of different painting companies local to St. Louis. You've been hiring employees, and some are great, like your foreman, and then some are, kind of on the fence.
Yeah.
Why should somebody want to go work for Boyer Painting? What are you offering that other companies aren't necessarily offering?
Stability, and I don't know, and I know someone probably does. I don't know anybody that's got 6 vans fully stocked and loaded. The only thing a new hire has to bring, they have to provide their own painter's whites. I provide their shirts, their hats, their sweatshirts.
Painter's whites?
Painter's whites, yeah, the white pants they wear.
Gotcha.
Painter's whites, that's one of my rules. They have to wear painter's whites. I don't want, my crews are not on job sites in basketball shorts. But everything else is in the van. Everything they need, the equipment's there. We have a shop. The foremen meet me at the shop in the morning. Clock in, we load their vans, we make sure everybody's good for the day. They have their work orders sent to them electronically. They go, the crew meets them at 7, and they're given, I'll normally bid a job based on how many days we can complete it. I'll tell them that I've given you 3 days. If on day 2 you think you need to go back on the 4th day for a little bit, call me, because I would rather them go back for a couple hours and then move them somewhere else midday than for them to rush at the end of the day. That fresh eyes in the morning with painting, that having that fresh eye in the morning is great. Sometimes it'll just be the foreman that goes back, QIs the job in the morning. Originally, the thought process was I'll go to each job and QI them myself. Once we grew, logistically, that was absolutely impossible. I'll have 6 crews finishing 6 jobs all at 3 o'clock on a Friday.
What are you doing with all this leftover paint? Because when I owned a junk removal company, that was like something we did not take whatsoever.
I do my best to have them leave it at the job sites. I donate a lot of it. So recently, Anchored Hope Church in Troy approached me about painting a teen room. I donated the whole project. We went up, we painted it, we sprayed the ceiling, and I was able to burn up a bunch of gray paint that we had on the walls. Actually did a custom accent color for them. So I do a lot of that, or we'll do a bucket sale, $1 a bucket. Buck a bucket, come buy it. Because it's hard to get rid of. And every once in a while, we'll have 25 gallons of paint for a house. And the day we show up, the homeowner will be like, you know what? I'm just not feeling that color. I'll be like, I can get a new color, but it's going to cost you. Sure, go for it. So then we'll donate it. We do a lot of Habitat for Humanity, stuff like that. And I'll just, instead of just painting the house white, we'll go put a color in it for them. And it really helps me because, with the junk removal, getting rid of paint's a pain in the ass. It's hard to do. And as a business owner, I don't like to use old paint. Like say we have like half a bucket of 2 different grays. You can mix them together and paint something with it, but if you go back to touch it up, it's not going to match. You're not going to get that same mix again. So in the beginning years, I was like, oh, we'll just reuse it. We'll do this. And it bit me in the rear end. Twice we did that, and I ended up buying a color for the house and going back and repainting it with fresh paint because I just couldn't make it work.
So I got another question for you. This is an interesting one. So I was just telling you I was painting a wall at my house. We had a roller. I've never painted in my life other than that one time. And I went to go, I'm like, I don't even know what to do with this stuff. Like, how do I wash it off? How well do I have to wash it off? And the paint just kept coming out and out and out. So once you use the roller, are you done with it? And
no, they're totally reusable.
And then how do you wash those?
So fun tip. So if you look at a lot of putty knives, they got like a half moon out of them. If you scrape the roller cover with it, that gets a lot of the paint out, and then you can just rinse them off, run them under some fresh water. One of the tricks we do is try to keep them damp. So a lot of the guys, with us working every day of the week constantly, if they wash up, they'll throw a couple of them in a fresh bucket of water, pull them out, wipe them off, and then go on. As long as you buy the plastic lined ones, you can do that. That way they're damp, they don't get stiff, they're ready to go. You just have to clean them. Most all of it's super cleanable, especially because we're not using cheap products. We use a good quality paint from either Sherwin-Williams or Benjamin Moore, and I buy good roller naps, good supplies, because your better paints, the paint companies actually formulate them to be put on with certain rollers. We had a little issue where the roll to the brush, which is an issue every once in a while, wasn't quite matching up. And I called my paint rep. He's like, what roller cover are you using with that product? And I told him, he goes, switch to this one. It's actually will take care of that problem. Sure enough, it did. He's actually coming out to speak at our next meeting and kind of educate the guys, because they actually formulate them to be put on with certain stiffness of brush too for better coverage. And that's one thing a lot of people don't get is paint's not just paint. Not in 2023. There's a lot of tech behind it. There's all sorts of crazy ins and outs. And we reuse a lot of our equipment. And the guys are pretty good about it. Every once in a while in the winter, bucket of water will freeze on them and ruin the rollers. Everything will be crusty. We'll have to throw a bucket away. But I have to give it to them. They've done really well with not just being super wasteful. I talk to other contractors that are like, oh man, drills walk off, ladders walk off, this walks off. Man, we've had a couple 4-foot ladders get twisted. We've left one at a house one time, but in overall the 6 years we've been in business, I've lost 3. I'll take that any day. We really and truthfully, I have to give it to the guys. They've been pretty good about it.
So my guys, they would go to the dump 5 times a day sometimes, right? And then if we had a box truck, like they'd use a dolly the whole entire job. Well, the whole entire truck's full, and then all the tools that we were using would go towards the back of the truck. So you open up the door, you'd have to take the dolly out, set it aside. And then we lost so many dollies. We lost sawzalls. We lost everything. I'd be like, guys, where's the dolly? Oh, you know what? I set it outside the truck at the dump, and, we left it there. I'm so sorry. And we'd have to buy so many. Oh, yeah. $150 a pop minimum.
Yeah. And you have to have it. You don't have a choice. Every once in a while, I'll have something like that. Somebody be like, well, just don't get them another one. I'm like, then they're not going to paint the house tomorrow, so I've got to get it. But I do have to say, my guys have been great about that. Roller poles wear out over time. You're using them every day. But I honestly, man, in 6 years, I've maybe done 2 bulk orders, because I always keep extra stuff at the shop.
So you buy everything in bulk right now?
I buy everything. I try to buy everything in bulk. If I'm going to do an order of roller poles, I go directly to Worcester, order a handful. It kind of depends. Recently, we had bounced some people around on trucks, went from 4 trucks over to winter. We got a little slower, and I had found that the guys were kind of grabbing extra stuff out of the others. So we pulled them all outside, washed them, cleaned them up. We emptied everything out, and I inventoried every truck again. I hadn't done it in a while. But what I did is I went to grab one of the vans to go do something in my house that was empty. I'm like, where'd everything go? So I went up to the hardware store and just bought a bunch that day, because I was trying to get everything ready and I didn't want to wait for delivery. But I try to keep everything in bulk. So with the shop's fully stocked, paint, everything for the jobs. Normally for 2 weeks worth of jobs. We keep our flat ceiling white and our trim white in bulk on hand. But then I also have different spots on the shelves that has paper and tape. And so they come in the morning, oh, this is your job today. Oh, I need extra tape. So then we've got the hand masking tools. They keep 2 on each truck, but if they're going to be doing some apartments where 4 people might need to tape, I'm like, hey, you're going to be at the apartments today. You want to grab a couple extra hand maskers? They'll grab them. We'll throw a box of tape in their truck. Like, I pretty well coordinate everything for them in the morning. And that has been one of the keys to our success is they don't have to go to Home Depot. They don't have to run off the job. They have everything they need. And if there's something that they get there and forget, or they don't have, or, homeowners are very, hey, you know what? Can we paint this door black? Sure. I or my wife run them by a product. If for some reason our paint supplier can't get it there, we'll drop something off when I'm out. If it depends on where my bids are. If I'm, an hour away, I had one call one day. It was like, hey, I need something. I'm like, man, I'm downtown in St. Louis. I can't. You could literally go make one before I could get there. So I had him run to Sherwin-Williams, which I very rarely do. Normally we can get it to him. And that's one of the keys with the productivity of just keeping everything rolling. And my foreman's job is to manage the job they're on and make sure it gets painted and looks good. They're not worried about the paint, the products, this and that. I have it sitting there. I have things ready for them. They have their checklist. They're good to rock and roll. So then that keeps that stress level for them too. I tell them, my job is to make sure you're ready with everything you need. Your job is to make sure it looks good. I can't come in and make sure it looks good. You have to take your pride in that, but I will make sure you have everything you need.
It's amazing, man.
Yeah.
Where do you plan on taking things from here in terms of personal or business or wherever?
For the next year or so, I want to keep the size we've got. We've kind of fluctuated between 8 and 16. I want to stay right around the 12 to 14. And I'm focusing on personal development with the crews. I want to teach them a lot of the things that is going to make us better. Our next meeting, I have a customer service specialist coming in to speak about the importance of customer relations. I figure if a lot of this content I dive into, like we spoke about earlier, if I can pass that on to them, this will be great. I ordered Jocko Willnick's Extreme Ownership Workbooks, and we're going to talk about some things in the book and leading up the chain of command, better informing me on things they may need on a job site, tools, issues they're having. I need them to be my eyes and ears. So we're gonna spend a lot of time on that, developing and getting a lot of my orders and operations written out. I wanna have a handbook that when a new foreman starts, I take them and I train them. But if they, I don't remember this one sprayer, do I do this with it? They can open the handbook and it's gonna tell them. And it's something you're probably the same way on this. I find a lot of entrepreneurs we'll roll things around in our brains for a while until we can kind of get it, like Play-Doh, kind of get it formed, and then we can start developing it. So I'm getting ready to step into the development stages of putting all this stuff onto paper, and just kind of taking a contracting business of painting and making it more professional. And I don't know who said it, but someone said rinse and repeat. The key to the success is you take something that works, you rinse, you repeat, you keep growing it. So at this point, I've learned a lot of lessons. I've learned a lot of what I want to do. So now I want to develop this more so that I can then teach other painting companies how to do it. That's one of the big things I followed with you is I've had great success with it. I don't know a lot of painting companies. And I don't know a lot of painters that have done what I've done. Not saying someone hasn't. I don't know any. But I'd like to teach people how to do it. And I think I've learned a lot of hard knocks in this business that would make that information valuable. And with the martial arts, I love to teach. I would really enjoy taking people at next level, showing them how to make the money with it and be successful. But I want to get a few more things laid out to be able to present them some more plug and play before I launch that. So that's actually my goal for 2024 is to have that launched.
So I want to ask you two more questions before we wrap up here. One, I just thought of saturation because everyone is like the junk removal market is the most saturated business out there, right? Painting is one of those businesses where everyone thinks of potentially that being an option for them to start a business, right? What do you have to say in terms of, is the painting industry saturated? Can somebody start this business and be fairly successful?
Any of the trades are not saturated at this point. I don't know one contractor, one builder that wouldn't like to have another painter. There is so much out there. I'll be honest, I actually offered a couple of my foremen to help teach them to do their own thing. And I was like, hey, let's create you some business cards or something, because I go to so many jobs. I haven't had it really happen recently. It was happening for a couple of years though. You're the only one that showed up. I'm like, really? Because I'd ask them, okay, what are you doing? And they'd be like, when are you going to have me a bid back? I said, well, I'll have it back tomorrow. I try to have them in 24 hours, if not by the end of day. Another key is getting that bid back quick. And I'm like, but I get it. You're going to get other bids. They're like, no, you're the only guy that showed up. Or when I do show up and I'm 5 minutes early, people open the door and they're like, well, look at that. Someone showed up.
And some people will show up, but they never send the quote.
That's another one. That's why people would always ask me. They're like, well, when are you going to send the quote? Because we're still waiting on the guy that was here 2 weeks ago. I was like, well, you'll have mine. Most of the time what I do when I bid is I'll text everything, all my notes over to Casey while I'm talking to the customer. And if she's in the office, I'll call her, dictate the numbers to her, and she shoots them over. They a lot of times have their bid before I'm at the next job, because we have a system for everything. And if it's new construction, it's based off all square footages, and we have all of our mathematics wrote out. She can do a lot of those without me. There's a lot of them she'll have to call and question a few things. If there's a question about a ceiling height or something, adding more product. But no, this is something that there's a lot of room for it, but they got to do it right. I'm just going to tell everyone I'm a painter and have a ladder sticking out of the back of my truck. It's 2023. People expect more. People expect professionalism. I've gotten so many jobs because I pulled up. It's actually why I'm driving a van today. My custom tints in Wentzville is wrapping my F-150 again. I purchased a new one. We've been so slammed, I didn't get a chance to get logos put on it. I get so much work, so I pull up and I always park adjacent, like right out the door. I want them to see it. Even if I block the mailbox or a fire hydrant, where I try to keep my eye on where I'm at so I'm not going to get in trouble. But I want them, when they open the door, to see that shiny truck out behind there with the logos, because that builds so much. I can track an $8 car wash to over $2 million in work we got. Legit, I showed up to bid a job. The guy goes, if your truck and trailer is that clean, you're hired. He said, your graphics are thought out. everything.
I love the branding. As
Yeah.
simple as it is, it pops.
And I've had so many old school sign guys stop me. They're like, I love your logo. I play a game on the highway, and I'm not crapping on other businesses, but I play a game on the highway. When I see logos on a vehicle or a wrap, I'll count. My kids do it with me now. They've gotten into it. We'll count how close we got to get before we can figure out what business they own. Mine's not like that. You see mine a mile away. And I actually did that based off two things. One, the logo's old school because when I first started, I wanted an old school truck. And two, my tattoo artist always says a good tattoo, you can read it from across the street. And I was like, man, if I got a logo, I need to be able to read it from a mile away. They need to know that's a painting. And I'm kind of like a logo snob. I'll have friends of mine send me their logos they're thinking of because they're like, all right, you're tagline and logo snob here. Like, what's your thoughts? I'll be like, man, I don't even know what I'm looking at. They're like, that's what I thought too, because they get too creative. Mine's just simple. And I think that's where a lot of these people go wrong is so Casey had a Transit back when you probably went to Leeds group with her. It was logoed. I would get so many calls. People are like, oh, I was behind your van in traffic. I was like, that's insane. Like the amount of calls we got off having those wrapped and the fact they're done professionally and easy to read. People can get my contact info off them super quick. I literally lost count of how many jobs. At one point, I was like trying to track it because I'm all about the numbers. And everybody that calls me, I'll get these contracts call me all the time. I'm going to give you so much work. I'm going to make you millions. And sometimes
They always say that.
Sometimes I'll be egotistical. I'll be like, I've already made that. So what else you got? Like if they catch me in the wrong mood, I'll try to pop their ego a little bit because I actually got really mad one time and I took every job I'd ever done since I opened. I did a spreadsheet on every person because I kept notes. 3 jobs is the average. The average person refers me out 3 times, if not more. But the people that call me, I'll give you so much work. Like all the agents.
Every investor out there says that, and then they hire you one time and you never hear from them again.
And
Give me a good deal.
That was what everybody did. You hook me up on this one, I'm going to take real good care of you. And I would always work through the conversation without being a dick to let them know that I was going to give them I give everyone an honest deal. They would get an honest deal, but that I wasn't going to hook them up. I never played that I'll hook you up, buddy, knuckle bump type game with them because I didn't want them to buy into that because I know they tell everyone that.
I learned my lesson with that, and we would never hear from a lot of these investors that you know about here.
Yeah.
Hey, we flip 100 homes a year.
Yeah.
We're going to hire you all the time. We'll hire
Every
you
house.
once a week, right? And do they actually do 100 homes? Probably not. And then we would just do that one job. We give them a discount. We'd never get a call back. It's, hey, you hire us, we'll take care of you, right? Then we'll start giving you a price per load discount.
That's what I started doing too is let's come in, let me show you why we're going to be a good fit. And then if we move forward, we can discuss things because they all have the most work. They're all, always related to being the pretty girl at the bar. Everybody's going to take you home, give you a good time. But most of them are completely full of crap. Because I get to the point now when they do that, I'll be on the phone. I'm like, thank God I'm on the phone because my eyes just rolled in the back of my head like a 12-year-old kid. I'm like, oh, here we go with this. Oh, I've heard this 100 times. Oh, that's awesome. I'm really glad you guys are doing good. And then I had to fight through the wording when I first started because everybody said that to me. I'm a referee to everybody. Now, I've had a couple that followed through. I've got a friend of mine's grandmother. Man, you don't get to sit at the big table at Thanksgiving if you do not use me. I've painted every family member in the house. I've painted coworkers of family members. They're like, no, we were told we weren't getting the chicken leg, Matt doesn't paint the house.
So what's some of the best advice you could give somebody who's trying to get better in life or even grow their business?
Man, there's so much good advice out there. I would say the biggest thing that I see people making the mistake on all the time is their spending. People see a Lamborghini like you've got and they think, God, that guy's terrible with money. What they don't realize is you don't waste money on stupid shit. Don't waste money. A lot of these guys, and a couple of my foremen went out on their own a while back and they made this mistake. They landed a big job. The guy razzled them with a 50% deposit on a $25,000 job, and they thought they were rich. And they finished the job, and by the time they finished it, they owed every single bit of it because they had wasted everything. They bought new toys, new this. When all the stimulus money is coming out, pulled everybody in a conference room. I said, let me sit down and talk to you guys. Let's take this money. Let's invest. Let's do this. Don't buy stupid stuff. That was on a Thursday. Monday morning, 3 of them pulled in. Boom, boom, boom. Man, I got subs this weekend. And I was like, did I talk to myself? Another one come in, he's like, I got 2 dirt bikes. I just kind of sighed, just sat on a bucket, shook my head, because I really thought they listened. But I watched so many people do this. I'm on track. We're going to make about $2 million this year painting. Been on the job sites working with the guys. Yesterday, lunch break popped up. Everybody hopped in a car, went to fast food to eat. I opened my lunchbox. I had a turkey sandwich and some chips that I bought a big bag and put me a little thing. And I'm not cheap. I just choose to do that. I also ate breakfast at my house and I ate dinner at my house that night. Every single one of them, if you sat them down and said, hey, would you like to make more money? Oh my gosh, man, I need more money. Man, if $1 raise had changed my life. And you're like, well, you spend $95 in 3 days at Casey's gas station on pizza. Oh, but man, it's just, and they got every excuse. So be smart with your money and prioritize how you use it. If you want certain things, you're going to have to give up things in the beginning. There's a lot of stuff I didn't have, because I had to buy paint. I had to pay employees. I've never, ever, ever once not been able to pay my employees at the end of the week. And I pride myself in that. Make good decisions and learn about money. I want to say one of the 10Xs or maybe in one of Grant Cardone. I buy any book that if I'm listening to someone and they recommend a book, I hop on Amazon and order it. I'll pull off the side of the road and order the book, even if I can't read it right then. I had like 20 books show up in like a 3-week period one time because people on podcasts kept referring them. But someone had said when I first got into it, learn everything you can about money, how money works. And that was a big mistake I made in the beginning because I didn't understand that. But
money just flows from pocket to pocket, and you need to make sure that it flows to you.
Yeah, and I would say something I was really bad about. Grant Cardone says this. Anytime it comes to money, man, he's Uncle G's the guy. I love his stuff, but pay yourself first. You can't. I think different people say you can't pour from an empty cup. Like if you're sitting at home broke because you made sure everything was taken care of, you're gonna regret that. You got to have that cash flow. You'll become spiteful. And I have to watch myself. That's one of the reasons for the Porsche. I'm gonna buy it because at the end of the week when I busted my tail and everything, and I go out and get in my car, I'm gonna go. You know what? I'm good.
And also when you have a car like that, like having one, I think you 100% should get one after I spent all this money. And a lot of people have told me differently. And there's been times where I'm like, why did I buy this thing? You know?
Yeah.
But when you get in the car, you feel like $1 million, right? Yep. You get a Porsche, you drive that thing around, you're going to feel good. You're going to have that positive energy flowing. It's going to make you want to go make more money.
And I'll be honest, I can't remember who said it, but somebody had said one of the podcasts, one of these very successful people, buy it because you're going to work to make sure you keep it. You're not going to buy it, be like, I'm accomplished, man. I'm just going to chill, do whatever I want. No, you're going to walk out every morning. And they were talking about, I think, a Ferrari. And they're like, you're going to see that Ferrari every morning and go, I got to go to work today and hustle. And that's just where I'm at. I had some goals this year, some things I wanted to accomplish first. And I wanted to learn more about the cars. I was kind of stupid when I first decided, hey, I want to buy a Porsche. And I started looking into them and I went, oh, there's a lot of nuances to those cars.
Yeah, something I learned is, I went out there and just bought it. I was like, I'll take that one, But you should get a PPI is what they call it, pre-purchase inspection, to where you take it to Porsche or wherever. They take every nut and bolt off the car, and then they'll tell you exactly what's wrong with it. Because what I've learned with mine is I never got a PPI, and that's like a big no-no, right? Really? With exotic cars, and I don't, if there was anything wrong with it, I wouldn't have known. Yeah. And then once you have a car like that, a Porsche, a Lambo, a Ferrari, you're not paying $100 for an oil change.
No, nothing, no.
I've never had a bill that was less than $1,000. Everything is thousands.
Yeah, because there was a lot. I don't remember what year it was, but I knew a guy that came to me, and there was 2 different friends of his that had bought. Man, I probably heard it. Probably the same thing you got. And when one of the maintenance requirements popped up, they were looking to unload it cheap because the guy wanted me to go in with him as an investment. I had no money at the time. I couldn't do it. But he's like, hey, if 3 of us buy this car, share it a little bit, and then we can flip it because it's going to be, it was really affordable to buy the car, but whatever maintenance stop was coming up, I want to say was $20K.
Yeah, that's
it was
what
a
they
big
do.
one.
Yeah, that's
it
what
was
they do.
It was a big one. And the guy had to unload the car because of that. And they had come to me like they wanted to do it as an investment. And I was like, if I buy a Lamborghini, I'm not sharing it.
Right.
I was like, I'll let my wife drive it, but I sure as hell am not going to just like turn it over to anybody.
A clutch, for example, with a Lambo. You know, if you get a early 2000s Gallardo, I'm pretty sure they're $10,000.
Oh, I bet.
You go and buy one, you think, oh, this car's great, right? And then that thing goes out. People will sell them right before they go out.
Yep.
And then you got to get it replaced immediately.
See, I had bought a 350Z years ago, and I talked when I went in to buy one, I was going to buy a used one. And a friend of mine was a sales manager. He goes, man, I can put you in a new one. Great deal. I had great credit. The guys down at Bommarito put me at 0%. Awesome car. I was like, hey, I got a question. What's up with these cars? Why are they all for sale with 28,000 miles on them? He goes, the tires. So what do you mean? He said, because back then I think it had an 18 Patanza or something. It's an expensive tire. He goes, guys can't afford them. The older guys wouldn't buy them because they couldn't fit their golf clubs in them because they had a sway bar in the back. And the younger guys that were buying them had to get rid of them because they couldn't afford that first tire change. And I was blown away because my brain, if I was buying it, I could afford it. Like I just remember being like, really? Because I kept seeing them. So I didn't want to buy one. I was like, man, something must go really wrong at 30,000. I think it was 23 or 28,000, somewhere in there. It's like something must go really wrong with these cars. That's why I asked him. I was like, dude, does the front end like fall out? Does the car explode? Like, why is the market saturated with these? And he's like, 'cause they can't afford the tires.
I got a funny story here,
Yeah.
and then we'll wrap up.
Okay.
But so I bought the Huracan. And, you know, I'm nervous. I bought a warranty for certain things that, you know, maybe an engine or something like that. If it's a $60,000 repair, you know, I've covered. So I pull out of my neighborhood off like Highway P, you know, kind of back roads. And I'm getting after it a little bit. And all of a sudden the car starts, you know, doing something. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I just blew the motor on this thing. Motor or transmission, I don't even know. And next thing you know, it just quits going. It sounds like it's going to shut off. The, you know, RPMs are jumping. I pull it over and I call my buddy and I'm like, dude, the guy who sold me the car, I'm like, I think I just blew up the motor or something. And he's like, you know, he's kind of walking me through whatever it was, right? And I'm like, I think I need to get this thing towed to your shop. He goes, you sure you didn't run out of gas? And I was like, it'll be the best day of my life if I ran out of gas.
That's all it is. I ran out of gas. I'm good.
I look at it. That's exactly what happened. Is I ran out of gas.
Wow.
But I thought that it was something crazy
Because the way it acted.
I feel like an idiot.
That's
but
what your mind jumps to, though.
Yeah.
So when I started looking into the Porsches, first thing I found was a YouTube video on bore scoring and issues with the motors. With the coating and the cylinder heads on some years. And then I found a video that said that was bullshit. And I found another video that said, no, it's not. That guy's video is fake. And I was like, okay, so first things first, got to find a good dealer that's going to point me in the right directions. And I think you had him on RP Exotics.
Yep, Parker
on. I painted their main room for him a little while back.
Very cool.
We did that actually when there was a bunch of flooding out here when Mid Rivers Mall Drive or Highway 70 flooded.
Yep.
Because we barely made their deadline because we couldn't get into the city. The road, everything was flooded. But I'm going to find somebody like him. Most likely it'll be him. I really liked them that can point you in the right direction. Cause I started learning real quick that you could make a big mistake real fast on those cars. And then, you know, there's chrono packages and there's different options that sell better. And then some people take the 4-wheel drive ones and make them 2. So then I was like, well, do I even, you know, I learned real quick that when you're buying something like that, you're not losing money on it. You're converting money into an object that you can always turn back into cash. So I was like, well, this is a great idea, but I need to make sure I make it right. You know, I need to make sure I get the color that's going to resell. And that's when I learned to do continued color or discontinued colors. So I'm like, cool. I've always been hung up on red, but red's probably not going to be the best dollar mark. There's a few blues and greens out there that are hard to get. Maybe that's what I wanted. So then I was like, well, let's step back for a year and really figure this out because this is going to be a big investment. And when I first toyed with it, I'm like, I'm just going to get a $60,000. I'm going to get an older one. Well, I won't feel bad. And people will be, I can tell them, oh, it's just 60. It's your truck costs more than my Porsche. And the more I got to look at it, I'm like, no, I'm going to buy like a decked out car. I'm going to invest the money. If I'm going to spend this money, I'm going to get my money back and I'm going to buy a turbo. I'm going to buy a $200,000 Porsche. Like if I come out in the garage and look at it, it's going to be the one I want. I'm not going to get in the '07 Carrera going, I wish it was this.
Right, and that will happen.
It will,
you know,
totally.
and even if you get a $200,000 one,
It'll probably, well, it's not GT3, you know.
Yeah,
for
or you're
sure.
going to see something that's always, I got to get more and more,
Yeah.
which is good and bad because
Yeah.
you're going to go work harder and then you're going to end up getting what you want. And then there's going to be something else down the road and you're going to work harder to get that.
And see, that's always been my mentality with anything. And I used to worry about it when I was younger. I was like, because I would see people I know get to a certain point and then just stop. They wouldn't go backwards. They just never really, they just float from there. And I always used to worry. I'm like, God, am I ever going to be that guy? Am I going to get to this one point that I'm going to go, I'm done. I'm done. I give up. No, I figured out that's not going to be me. I'm going to be 90 years old, hustling, doing something. I'll be selling black market depends at the nursing home. I'll be doing something.
You'll be
Always.
managing the shoe business.
Yeah. Be overseeing everything for them. So that's perfect.
Cool, man. Well, I love what you're doing. Glad we finally got to
this is
meet
great.
and appreciate you coming on, man.
Hey, thank you. This is awesome. Love it. Love watching everything you've done. This is awesome.
Cool, man. We'll
Sweet.
see you guys on the next one.